Mayor Atrill, thank you so much for sitting down with me and chatting about you being here at the Federation of Canadian Municipalities in beautiful Ottawa, Ontario.
Thank you.
What brings a mayor from Smithers, British Columbia, to beautiful national capital, Ottawa?
Well, I'm delighted to be in the national capital. It's far away from home, but it is driven by attendance at FCM. And when I was first elected, I had a chance to attend FCM, and it made a very big impression on me. The opportunity to sit by happenstance next to someone from another part of the country to talk about issues and realize how much in common we have, from the Arctic to the Atlantic to the Pacific, and it really touched me. And I've tried to come to this conference as frequently as possible since then, and I've made those connections here again. And it's gratifying. Lots of this work can be challenging, and to make these little connections and discover you've got colleagues across the country is, it takes a little edge off the job.
So what are those common challenges that municipalities like Smithers is facing that you're hearing here in Ottawa at FCM?
I don't think it's any surprise people dealing with
housing, infrastructure.
Yes, housing, dealing with people who are vulnerable, homelessness, encampments, community safety, challenges with, achieving enough health care, even though that's not our direct responsibility. People who live in our communities ask us to help on these things, trying to make sure there's adequate services, advocating up. And whether you're in Smithers, BC, another part of BC, or in another part of the country, local elected are doing that job, trying to bring that story up to the people who can help. And it's the same. I was in a session the other day on people sharing, myths or disinformation, and hearing the stories from people across the country. It's like, that's a national issue. And so it lets you know you're not alone, that there's other people to call, and that maybe other people are finding solutions to help advance those, and it's nice to build out that network.
Are there unique challenges that Smithers is facing that you're not hearing here, or are the large macro issues that you're dealing with in Smithers similar to what you're hearing when you do that networking, connect with other municipal leaders, whether it be from the Pacific Ocean, Atlantic, or Pacific, Antarctic? Yeah, if I'm doing all my and the Great Lakes, are you hearing? No matter, even if you feel like it's a very unique issue to you, there is someone else out there who's going through the exact same challenge that you are?
I think there's way more the same than different. The nuance of an issue might be different in my community. If, we're trying to find enough resources to work on a road, or to build a public amenity, or to figure out how do we increase or make the best out of how we reach out to citizens. There's nuance in each community, and from time to time we'll have our own special issue. But it is about how do we get enough money to do the job. Earlier today I was hearing about the need to get those other orders of government to share the resources down with municipalities. We have the lion's share of the infrastructure. We can't raise the money to build it out to what our communities expect. So there's way more in common, and the specific street or the specific hospital or the specific nuance of the issue, those are slightly different, but it's the same stories.
Now, you were just acclaimed as the new president of the North Central Local Government Association, which is an organization in British Columbia. They met recently in Prince Rupert. I happened to be there, and I heard a common theme that you just touched on, which is rural and remote healthcare. Mm-hmm. It is a challenge for Northern BC. What do you see at this convention that is helping address some of those concerns, or are you advocating to people on the FCM board to say this is what we need to do? Because you're the president now, and all the responsibility lies on you to make sure that your advocacy is not just provincial but also federal when it comes to this rural and remote healthcare challenge.
Well, interestingly enough, in the resolutions series, I think it was the first resolution, looking for that sort of level of support across the country for healthcare, including rural, remote, northern Indigenous communities. So, in my community, I'm not expecting the level of healthcare, all the amenities that Greater Vancouver might have, where you've got several million people. I understand that, but on scale, people have to have some access to healthcare, and that might mean transportation to get you there. It might mean that the flight paramedics have to be adequately served. So there's different ways to tease that out. But what's not okay is not to have access, not to be heard, and to have your project somehow put down the list so far that I've heard myself say it, that won't be in my lifetime. And that's actually very depressing, you know. So in our community, we have a hospital very much in need of replacement. And I've heard myself say, I'll be lucky in my lifetime. And that's not actually okay. It's been on the list for a long time. It's very old, and it's not the only one. So somehow our common challenge is to figure out, how do we share out those resources so everyone's moving along at a reasonable rate, so that we don't look at a remote hospital and say, oh, we can get to that in 30 or 40 years, when it's already, 50. I mean, our hospital's older than I am, so it's more than 30 or 40 years. So it's, and I appreciate it's super difficult, but we have our combined resources across the country. We have to figure out what are the priorities across the country, so that the people who are living in rural Canada, and many, many people too, however you define it, are feeling the benefit of what happens in their backyard. So in our area in northwestern British Columbia, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of impact on communities. Okay, those decisions are being made. We must return benefit to the communities. Otherwise, we can't in our communities deliver the services that the people who are working in those developments are going to expect when they come to town. We need to get water to their buildings. We need to make sure the sewer's working, that the roads hold them up, and that we can work with our colleagues and other jurisdictions to ensure there's adequate schooling for their children, and hospitals when they need it. It's got to be multi-pronged all the time. There's not just one thing.
So how do you see yourself as you're in your new role as president of NCLGA to ensure that commonality goes forward, that the next mayor doesn't have to say to themselves depressingly, not in my lifetime? Because you're right, municipalities are struggling today. They're not struggling 30 years from now, which they will be if nothing happens today. How do you ensure as president that the issues that are important today are on the provincial and national level? Is it coming to these conferences? Is it speaking up when you need to speak up? Is it what?
Well, I think it's all of those things. And I think it's building those networks amongst the local elected. And I think, in northern or north central or northwest BC, however we want to define that part of the province, we have started finding that strength of commonality where we've shared a message. Where the last time I met with a mining company, it's like, I need your help too. So it's very common for industry to seek support from local governments, because they like to know they're welcome. They like to know that when they go to the powers that be, they can say, well, we're supported. And now the message is, we need to be supported. So if you want us to be able to support you, you need to support us, and it's going to mean a change in the landscape somehow. My colleague, my neighbor to the east, the District of Houston, reminds us that once upon a time, industry used to build the towns. Well, we're not going to have that, but there needs to be a sharing of the benefit so that we can help deal with the impacts. We all love to think about our communities growing, but they have to grow well. People have to feel safe. They have to be able to enjoy their life, to have the experience, that when you come to a community, on balance, it's great. Yeah. It's not something you're worried about. You feel welcome and excited, and you've got things to do, and you land in a happy community. People are happy when they're healthy, when they understand all the things are there that they need. And when we live in small communities, we don't expect the same as a large city, but we do expect some things. And so we expect those basic amenities, we expect to be heard, and we want to feel safe. And I think our job, you asked me, what am I going to do? I'm going to find my way, because it's a new role, but I'm not unfamiliar with my colleagues across the region. And we're going to try to find a common voice, pick those few things that we think are important to all of us, and try to advance those, whether it's through meetings with the provincial government, with the federal government when necessary, with other local governments, to build that case and share the message and say, these are the things, these are the most important things for us, and we need your help on them now. To the province, to those who are working in our communities, it's going to have to be an all hands on deck.
So my final question, it's a political one, but I feel like you're, as a political politician, you should be able to answer it. What does the town of Smithers get from FCM that it doesn't get by just advocating for itself. Why is it important for the town of Smithers to be part of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities?
Well, I think federations only work when there's members, so that's one thing. If you want something to be strong, you need to join, and you need to show up, and you need to contribute your energy to some level. I'm not an integral member of FCM. There's a lot of people here, but I'm living.
You are, though, aren't you?
For sure, because I am one, but I'm not on the board of FCM. But it takes all of us to chip in a little bit to give those that are on the board, that are carrying the big flag for all of us, to know that there's 2,000 people behind them. And so I think it's important to be there. Also, I learn things, I meet people, and our community takes advantage of the programs that FCM has. So we can apply for funding, we can take part in the programs. So it's important to be a part of it. If we don't join, it's not strong. And you only get to make things strong by showing up. You pay your fee and you show up. I think that's how things work.
Well, Mayor Atrill, I'm so happy that you sat down with me. I'm so happy that we got to chat. I look forward to meeting you again in Prince George next year for the NCLGA convention up there. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.